You know, in Hollywood, relationships often play out like a movie premiere, all flashbulbs and headlines. But for almost a decade, Mel Gibson and Rosalind Ross did the opposite. They built a life together, quietly, away from all that noise. But now, that chapter is over. So today, we're going to get into the story of their quiet uncoupling, the incredible challenges they faced together in their final year, and what's next for these two as they head down separate creative paths.
All right, so here's the game plan. We'll start with how this very private couple handled their very public separation. Then, we'll hit rewind and look at their entire 9-year journey. We're also going to shine a real spotlight on Rosalind Ross's own amazing career, and then dig into the unbelievably tough year that led up to all this. Finally, we'll see how this relationship fits into the bigger story of Gibson's life, and check out what they're both cooking up next.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the announcement itself. In a town that basically runs on drama, Mel Gibson and Rosalind Ross did something pretty rare. They decided to end things on their own terms, with dignity and, above all, privacy.
And here it is, the joint statement they give to People magazine. The first thing you notice, there's no drama, no finger-pointing. It's short, it's respectful, and the very first thing they talk about is their son. This really tells you everything you need to know about how they've handled this whole thing. It's all about co-parenting and protecting their family. And that brings us to this number, 9 years. 9 years. I mean, let's be honest, in the world of celebrity relationships, 9 years is a lifetime. And what's even crazier is how they managed to keep so much of their life together under wraps for that long.
But here's the detail that really shows you how serious they were about privacy. Even though we all found out in 2025, sources say they actually went their separate ways in late 2024. That means they navigated this huge personal change for about a year before anyone in the public had a clue. That wasn't an accident. That was a choice to keep their family out of the media storm.
So, to really understand how this all ended, we've got to go back to how it all began. Let's take a quick look at the milestones that defined their 9 years together.
This timeline lays it all out pretty clearly. They meet back in 2014, their son Lars arrives in 2017, and then you see that big gap, the full year between when they quietly separated and when they finally told the world. It just hammers home how long they managed this transition on their own.
Now, we gotta talk about something the media always focused on, the 34-year age gap. Yeah, the tabloids had a field day with it, but for Mel and Rosalind, it clearly wasn't the big deal everyone made it out to be. It didn't stop them from building a life, a family, and spending nearly a decade by each other's side.
And this little story from Mel just paints such a vivid picture of a really happy time for them. Just imagine it. He's getting this huge career validation with an Oscar nomination for Hacksaw Ridge, and at that exact moment he's holding his brand new baby boy. It's just one of those perfect moments where his professional life and personal joy completely collide.
But, and this is so important to remember, this wasn't just Mel Gibson's story. This was a partnership between two very creative, driven people. It's so easy to just see her as his partner, but trust me, Rosalind Ross is an absolute force in her own right.
So let's ask that question directly. Who is Rosalind Ross? To really get the full picture here, you have to look at the incredible career she was building long before and all throughout her time with him.
The answer? She's incredibly accomplished. Before she ever wrote a script, she was a world-class equestrian. We're talking a gold medalist. Then she pivots to Hollywood, writes and produces the critically acclaimed film Father Stu, and now she's stepping up to direct her own major film. This is a serious career built on talent and hard work.
And from what people close to them say, it was exactly that drive and talent that made their partnership work. She's often described as bringing this creative spark into his life, a whole new perspective right when he needed it. So this was never just a romance. It was a real creative partnership, built on a ton of mutual respect for each other's art.
But there's another layer to this story. That final year they were together wasn't just about their relationship ending. They were also hit with something else, something huge that would have tested any family, let alone one going through a quiet separation. First, let's just re-establish this. By all accounts, the split itself was amicable. Friends have gone on the record saying it was a mature decision, all about mutual respect, with the #1 priority being good co-parenting for their son.
But while they were trying to navigate this incredibly personal change, life threw them a massive, devastating curveball. They had to face a tragedy that had nothing to do with their relationship, but everything to do with their resilience as a family.
Yeah, during those horrific wildfires in early 2025, their home in Malibu burned to the ground. Now, the most important thing is that they all got out safely. But losing your home, the place where you're raising your child, the place filled with all your memories,
That's a profound trauma. And to have that happen while you're already going through a separation, it's just unimaginable.
Now, to really grasp why this 9-year relationship was so significant, it helps to kind of zoom out and place it within the larger story of Mel Gibson's public life and family.
This table really tells a story, doesn't it? You've got his marriage to Robin Moore, that's nearly 3 decades and 7 kids. Then, the very short, very public, and very turbulent relationship with Oksana Grigoria. And then, 9 years of quiet stability with Rosalind Ross. It's such a stark contrast to what came right before it.
And the birth of their son Lars brings us back to that number 9 again. Mel Gibson is now a father of 9 children. You can say a lot about his career, the highs and the lows, but the one constant thread through his entire life story has been his role as a father.
All right, so where do they go from here? With their personal chapter closed, let's look at the very different creative roads these two talented filmmakers are now taking on their own.
And it is crystal clear that both of them are diving headfirst into their work. Gibson is going back to one of his biggest passion projects, directing the sequel to The Passion of the Christ. And at the same time, Ross is taking that huge next step in her own directing career with God of the Rodeo. They're both tackling massive, ambitious projects, but in their own unique ways.
So that's where we're left. A 9-year partnership, both personal and creative, has come to an end. But for two people who are natural-born storytellers like Mel Gibson and Rosalind Ross, the end of one story is really just the setup for the next. The real question is, what kind of stories will they tell now that they're telling them apart?